Welcome to On the Chain.
And some other new announcements. This is interesting too. We've got the Digital Dollar Project. That's everywhere today, Jeff. The Digital Dollar Project. Announcing the launch of the Technical Sandbox program, an important step to jumpstart the exploration of CBDCs by testing a wide range of design choices. Wide range, Jeff. And answer some critical questions about the impacts of potential U.S. CBDCs. Because one thing about the U.S. we need to something. One thing we don't need more of is something more centralized. Everything is centralized. Central planners are everywhere.
Central bank digital currencies.
We don't need any more centralization.
Controlled money.
And there's real world data. Let me just go ahead and click on this press release here. Yeah, We'll explore technical and business, and then it says this and it says that, and the technical program. The next step. This is the ones I love. These pull quotes because they're so. It's like, and they're so attorneyed up that they don't even make sense anymore. So we understand how important it is to include a diverse set of views and expertise as we look to answer key questions about how technology could work, the problems we hope to solve, and the ultimate business of individual outcomes we want to achieve. The marriage of these sectors, it's just like this. Womp, 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 womp. It's Charlie Brown, Jeff. What does that even mean? What does any of that mean?
I think they just added a whole bunch of words together. Kind of tied in, said, hey, let's get some technical words, some blockchain words, some crypto words, and central, and just tie it all together and pretend like we're actually saying something.
But anyway, there's all this stuff about the sandbox, and the results will be broadly shared and used to inform both private and public sector stakeholders, and it's just a lot of work there, Jeff.
Oz Crypto said, do you think CBDCs are necessary evil for adoption by mass society? Or do you think it's actually realistic to ignore governments' established economies and operate entirely outside?
Jeff, you want to take a shot at that first, and then I'll take a shot?
So I think it's interesting. So yes, I believe that governments want to maintain their sovereignty over their currency and control over the flow of currency. And therefore, they want to move into the central bank digital currency. I think, is it a necessary evil for adoption? I think it's an evil, to be adopted, mainly because you can't have full reliance or faith on the government that's going to be potentially manipulating, the digital currency. So that's question number one. If there's a means and mechanism to maintain full privacy of that currency. But we've already seen major concerns coming from multiple directions in multiple countries. And I think that's been addressed significantly here in the U.S. by political representatives, even that, the big concern is going to be maintaining privacy of the currency. So is it a necessary evil for adoption? I think they're pushing for it. I think we're gonna have a lot more issue. But to operate entirely outside of the realm of government's trying to find their ways to maintain relevancy in the world, but the cat's out of the bag within the decentralized space. And I think it's gonna be an interesting time as we move forward over the next decade to see how this all unfolds and to really see the power struggles. Chip.
Let me go full blown rant on this one, Jeff, because it's one of the favorite things I love to talk about here.
I know.
So Oz, yeah. So I don't think it's not a necessary evil for adoption, because the problem is that Jeff nailed it right there. Like, when you talk about sovereignty of currency, here's the big problem. No governments have sovereignty of currency. Why? Because they like the Federal Reserve here in the US is a third party. We've never seen the balance sheet. We've never had an audit since 1913. It's a long time. Usually central banks don't last that long. It's been a long time, and we don't control. The U.S. doesn't control their own currency. Most central banks, you got the European Central Bank, which is making moves and telling Europeans like, hey, you're just going to have to chill out a little bit. You're going to have to turn that thermostat. There's going to be pain points involved, and you're going to have to suffer. Not the ECB. Not anybody else. They're living large. Everything's fantastic. So the point you're making about going outside the government, yeah, I think Jeff's spot on with the whole governments want to have control over the currency. Right now, they don't. And I think the best move that could be made is somewhere, not a centralized, central uh, bank digital currency, but I think a new sovereign currency that's digital, that's not programmable. Because this right here, I wanted to step into this right here because this was put up. This was Molly Elmore at Molly Elmore 22. She said, "Will Americans have a CBDC Bill of Rights to ensure that programmable money isn't used as a control mechanism? Blockchain money has amazing potential, but also could become a dystopian nightmare if the right measures aren't in place." Hashtag CBDC Bill of Rights. So, yeah, I mean, I think that right there is spot on.
think
The
that
whole idea.
summarizes it.
Well, here's what happens. I go like, well, yeah, you can. I guess we could, if push came to shove, just say, well, maybe you're overweight and you just can't buy any more donuts. This is the way it works. You got to buy healthy things in the government, and your money doesn't work to buy unhealthy things. And he's like, and everybody's like, well, that's just ridiculous, Chip. That's never going to happen. But then we had Canada this past year, and there aren't any CBDCs, but yet the government said, hey, bank, shut down this person's account and shut down these other accounts. And they did. The banks later came out and said, yeah, it probably wasn't such a good idea. They came out and apologized, but the damage was done. And it kind of showed everybody in the world like, hey, this is probably what's going to happen. And people always say, if it's possible, at some point it happens, right? Something triggers it. Somebody doesn't like something. And then all of a sudden, whatever money you have sitting, whatever, your CBDC sitting in a wallet, wherever, stops functioning, has no value because of the programmability. Jeff, what do you think on that? What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking that, as crypto said, isn't money already a control mechanism? And you brought up Canada, I think that's very succinct, to see what happened in Canada. But they also have certain, they don't have the same protective mechanisms that we do here in the US. So they went, full crazy and took advantage of that, and we saw how the banks responded to the Canadian government. Now, if you have a CBDC with full centralized programmable control, which to that tweet that you shared, I think is spot on. And that summarizes everything, because if you're going to have a digital currency, that digital currency has to have a Bill of Rights attached to it. In the United States, we have a Bill of Rights, we have a Constitution, one that isn't really duplicated in any other parts of the world, and it's very critical because it's there to protect the inherent rights of the individual and tell the government what they can't do.
Right on.
And so that's very unique. And it has to be the same way with money because, from Oz's question or follow up, isn't money already a control mechanism? And it is. And we've seen it. We've seen the manipulation of money, and that's where with decentralization, it brings about a whole different aspect of how people can now freely move their funds or freely really develop themselves. Because we've talked a lot about this. There's been, I think, a term that's freely been thrown around for a long time, referencing the unbanked in the world. But if we look at certain countries uh, that are where they have a majority of the population operating outside of the banking sphere, the banking world, they don't participate in the economy. They don't participate in the local economy or the
Mhm.
global economy, and they're excluded. And the banks are structured in those countries from a perspective to specifically and purposely hold them down. And that's how the whole, how that whole society in those countries, the whole hierarchy is created. In this country, it's no different. Through high levels of taxation, or I mean, there's a lot of different means to manipulate with money. But when you get that freedom, you have the liberty, you have full control over your own outcome with your money. That makes a big difference.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.